Debuting January 2021 is The Little Things, starring Denzel Washington, written and directed by veteran director John Lee Hancock, also starring Oscar winner Rami Malek and Jared Leto. You would think this movie would be quite good given all the star power and all the veteran experience involved in it. The movie features Denzel Washington as Deke or Deacon. He used to work for the LA police force as a detective. Now he's moved on to be just a deputy in a remote county, and he comes back to LA. He ends up helping out with the crime scene, or with the crime that Rami Malek, the detective, can't solve or has been having trouble with for months. Rami Malek plays the new detective on the scene. These two characters may not get along, or we're not sure what's going on between them, but eventually they work together to try to solve this case where a serial killer is pursuing a bunch of young women. We have a bunch of young women dead, especially sex workers, and why and how is this happening? Pretty early on, we get an inkling that it's the Jared Leto character. Just by knowing he's in the movie, I think you probably can guess he may at least be the serial killer. He has all the affectations of a sociopath. He looks like a drug-addled Jesus, and this is like typical Jared Leto. I think the casting is just too obvious here, so that's one of my problems with the movie. Now, by the middle of the movie, we have a strong guess, as the characters do, that this guy's a serial killer. I won't tell you whether he is or not, but you have a cat and mouse thriller in which the cops are trying to gain evidence so they can catch this killer. Meanwhile, the killer is so smart and toys with the cops that he's able to get away seemingly with a lot of things. This has a lot of cop cliches in it. The Denzel Washington character struggles with some past crime that was flawed or he screwed up, and now he's just angry and trying to get revenge or vengeance in this particular case. Meanwhile, you got a new cop. He's got a wife and kids, but he's forsaking them at home, the Rami Malek character, because he's too invested in the case. Meanwhile, the Jared Leto sociopath is just a sociopath playing with the cops. If all this sounds familiar, you've seen it in movies a lot. And unfortunately, I was reminded of this movie's flavors. It's a lot like the movie Seven by David Fincher, more than 20 years old, a much better movie. And no kidding, even the ending, I'm not giving anything away by saying this, but the ending has a lot of flavors of the movie Seven. I was even reminded the affectations of the Jared Leto serial killer, or would-be serial killer character, a lot like the Kevin Spacey character in Seven. So for all those reasons, I feel this movie is a bit of a rip-off of that movie, Seven, and a lot of other movies like it. It's also very dull and disorienting at times. The opening is a cliched scene that goes nowhere, with a woman being pursued on a highway by a car. We don't know who's in the car. Later on, there's a lot of cutting, a lot of shots in this movie. Too much editing, I think. I think too many shots is my main complaint about the directing, because we never get to linger on these characters and where they are in the frame and how they're being associated with the previous cuts. We just keep cutting to different ways of looking at them. It's jarring and disorienting. I'm not in love with that strategy here. Now, the movie has a couple of plot twists. You can guess them. To get to the plot twist, though, one of these detectives has to do something I think is so stupid I can't imagine anybody in real life doing. You gotta watch the movie to figure out what he does, but it doesn't seem like anything that any police officer would do. Nevertheless, what he chooses to do gets us to the ending, and the ending is saying something about policing in general, I think, about cops who may not be able to solve cases. What do they end up doing and their frustrations? And I think I understand the ideas of this movie pretty well from sort of a strategy, script writing perspective. And I kind of like them, actually. By the end, and thinking about what the ending is about, this is not that bad of a movie from an idea perspective. I feel like the execution, though, was way off in this movie. As I said, the casting choice may be a little too obvious with Leto. I don't feel like Rami Malek really fits here as a detective. He's a little too creepy for this role. Maybe, maybe not. We can debate that. He just doesn't really fit the police detective role. I don't think that's his fault. And ultimately, I don't end up caring much about these characters and their problems. There's also a lot of police jargon in this movie, mixed with mysterious, vague talk about the character's history. Those two things don't really go along very well in this movie. And so for all those reasons, I gotta give it a 1.5 stars. I just did not like this movie at all. for what it was getting at. It's grubby, dark, and dissatisfying ultimately. A little too cliched. For that reason, I think a lot of you probably won't like it, and you'll be reminded of other detective thrillers you've really liked from the past, say, 50 years. This one is not up to snuff, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, I don't like this movie. I don't recommend it. What do you think about what I've said? Please leave us comments. Do you think this movie's any good? I think it could have been good. I just don't like it at all. So, let us know if you liked it and why. Beware of spoilers, though, because, of course, this movie contains a few. Let's talk about them in the comments, and please subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Have a great day.